All right, let's get right into it. When you picture a sacred text, you probably think of something clean, orderly, maybe a little bit sterile. That's kind of like Hinduism's Shukla, or white Yajurveda. But today, we are talking about its mysterious and frankly much more influential rival, the Kṛṣṇa, or the black Yajurveda. And that name alone, it just raises a huge question.
Seriously, why would you do that? It feels so counterintuitive, right? In a world where we often connect darkness with something negative or impure, why would you brand your most important spiritual knowledge like that? Well, the answer is fascinating. It has absolutely nothing to do with good versus evil, and everything to do with a brilliant and surprisingly practical design choice.
Okay, so here's the whole deal. The split between a black Veda and a white Veda. It's all about how the text is put together. It's about structure. The Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda went down a path that looks, well, kind of jumbled to our modern eyes. But for the ancient world, it was an act of pure genius.
And this is the best way to think about it. Imagine you're watching a movie. The Shukla, or white Veda, is like the standard DVD. You get the movie, the sacred verses, in one file, and the director's commentary, all the explanations, is a totally separate track or a separate booklet. Neat, tidy. But the Kṛṣṇa, or black Veda, that's the special edition where the director is talking over the movie, weaving the commentary right into the scenes. You just can't pull them apart.
And to really get this, we just need two quick terms. First, you've got the mantras. These are the sacred formulas themselves, basically the what you say during a ritual. Then you have the Brāhmaṇas. That's the commentary, the theology, the symbolism. In other words, the why you say it. The white Veda keeps them separate. The black Veda mashes them all together.
Here's another way to picture it. Imagine you're in a lecture with a brilliant, passionate professor. She reads one line from an ancient poem. That's the mantra. Then she immediately goes off on this 10-minute tangent about its deep meaning, its history, its symbolism. That's the Brāhmaṇa. And then she goes back to the next line of the poem. That dynamic, in-the-moment experience, that is the black Yajurveda.
So how on earth did this motley structure come to be? Well, the tradition has this wild, unforgettable origin story that actually explains it perfectly. And yeah, it involves a ticked-off student, a powerful teacher, and some unusual birds.
You heard that right. As the story goes, the great sage Yajnavalkya got into a big argument with his guru and was forced to literally vomit up all the Vedic knowledge he had learned. The other disciples then took the form of tichri birds, which are partridges, and they consumed this expelled, digested knowledge. Now think about that for a second. Digested food is, by its very nature, all mixed up. It's not in its original clean state. It's a motley mixture, just like the text itself.
But hold on, here's the twist. This incredible story was almost certainly a piece of ancient marketing, a bit of propaganda cooked up by the rival Shukla school. See, they were trying to brand their Veda, which they claimed came fresh from the sun god, as pure and clean, while painting the older version as, well, polluted or secondhand. It's a fantastic glimpse into the competitive world of ancient Indian schools of thought. So the rivals called it a flaw. But what if that messy design was actually the black Veda's greatest strength? What if it wasn't a bug at all, but a feature, one that was perfectly engineered for its time?
And this is the absolute key. We're talking about a time long before printing presses, before books were a thing. Knowledge had to be passed down orally, memorized perfectly from person to person for centuries. So the structure of the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda wasn't some accident. It was a highly sophisticated piece of cognitive technology designed specifically for the human brain to remember and transmit.
You see, we live in a world of files and folders. We love having our information neatly organized so we can look it up easily. But an ancient priest performing a complex ritual that could last for hours, entirely from memory, they had a completely different set of needs. They needed a just-in-time system where the action and its meaning were fused together in their mind.
And that really is the bottom line. By binding the what to say and the why you say it together, the Kṛṣṇa Veda becomes a way more robust, way more practical manual for live performance. The clean Veda is great for a library, but the motley Veda, that was a masterpiece for the stage. But this text was so much more than just a performance manual. The tradition that grew around it, which we call the Taittiriya school, built out a whole self-contained curriculum. It was designed to guide a person through every single stage of life. It all starts with the Samhita. That's the core ritual text we've been discussing. But from there, it just keeps going. It expands into appendices, into the Aranyaka or forest books for deeper meditations, and it all culminates in the famous Taittiriya Upanishad, its core philosophical teaching. It's this beautiful, seamless path from external action to internal realization.
So we've got this ancient rivalry, this brilliant design for memory, this complete life curriculum. But why does any of this matter right now? Because here's the kicker. In the long run, the so-called messy Veda didn't just survive, it won.
This is a fact that might actually blow your mind. Despite its rival's very clever marketing campaign, the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda is by far the most widely practiced living Vedic tradition in India today. For tens of millions of people, especially across South India, this text is the bedrock of their ritual life. And the evidence is just everywhere. It forms the ritual backbone for huge regions. It's actively preserved and promoted by some of the most important centers of Hinduism, like the Sringeri and Kanchi monasteries. And a huge reason for that? The great philosopher Adi Shankara himself belonged to this tradition. So to preserve his philosophy, you had to preserve the entire ritual text that it was embedded in.
And if you want one killer example, just think of the Śrī Rudram. It is one of the most powerful, most chanted hymns to Shiva, and you can hear it in temples all over the world. Well, guess what? That's not some separate prayer book. It is a central, vital part of the Black Yajurveda.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. If there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Structure isn't just about keeping things tidy. Structure is strategy.
The Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda was never dark or corrupt. It was this sophisticated, motley text. And its interwoven design was a brilliant technology, perfectly engineered for memorization and live performance. And that very practical design is exactly what guaranteed its survival, and in the end, its dominance.
So in the end, the Veda that got branded as polluted, as messy, as secondhand, it turned out to be the more resilient one. Its structure simply made it more useful for the priest on the ground, and that real-world utility is what carried it through thousands of years. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Could it be that this perfect fusion of action and meaning, the what and the why woven together, isn't some ancient flaw at all, but is the very secret to its enduring power as the most living, breathing Veda in the world today?